So there's a reason that in medicine they have what's called best practices, which is what is the best things to do for this situation. So myself, Dr. Dan Neissany, and my co-host, Antonio Garcia, have our own company called Best Practice Strategies, and that is the reason that we named it that. What are the best things that we can do in leadership, operations, culture, and strategies that not only help us, but we learn from the best of the best? What are they doing at a high level that takes their companies to this stratosphere? Welcome to this episode of All Things LOCS, the podcast where we would discuss leadership, operations, culture, and strategies for growth. Now, in medicine, they have this concept called best practice. And basically that means what are the best things that you can do in any given situation? So myself, Dr. Dan Neissany, and my co-host, Antonio Garcia, have our own company called Best Practice Strategies, and that is the reason that we named it that. What are the best things that we can do in leadership, operations, culture, and strategies that not only help us, but we learn from the best of the best? What are they doing at a high level that takes their companies to this stratosphere? And we're going to be going over some of that today. So I want to flip it over to my partner, Antonio Garcia, first. And I'm going to start with him because he is the expert when it comes to operations. So what would you say is some best practice applications that people could do in business when it comes strictly to operations?
Oh, that's a good one. So I'm actually pretty fired up about this episode. So when it comes to stuff like this, I think it's really appreciating that you're going to have different learners in your organization. Some people are very kinesthetic. Some, they have to be really hands-on to learn something. Other people that might be in the same department as you are very auditorial. Other ones are very, very visual. So when you're working in the world of operations, right, if you're just trying to get everybody on the same page, these are the systems that we're following. And if you follow them step by step, it's always going to create the same result, like 10 out of 10 times. So how do we do that? And I think if someone gets really good on teaching operations, and they're teaching it in a ton of different ways, where I like flow charts. So for people that are very visual, like I can say something to you, like step one, you do this, step two, you do that. And some people are like, all right, cool, got it. Yeah, I'll go do it. No big deal. And they nail it 10 out of 10 times, perfect. There's other folks where it's like kind of what we said a few episodes ago, like they're asking like 9 times and it's just not sticking. But if you show them a graph or a flow chart, they have a photographic memory, they see it, and then they do it 10 out of 10 times.
What kind of piggybacking off that, what is the importance, or why should a business create standard operating procedures?
Because you want quality assurance on your business. Imagine if we went to like McDonald's and we ordered a Big Mac, and then we went again the next day and we get an entirely different sandwich. That would be a problem, because that lack of inconsistency, that lack of consistency, it creates distrust. This isn't anything. This is a life thing. If my wife was a raging psychopath one day, which she's not, I love you, babe, and other days she's just like the most submissive Asian wife in the whole wide world, which she is. Like if that was all over the place constantly, if you have that with employees, when you have that with vendors, you're not going to work with them. So when you're having that standard operating procedure in place, what it does is it reduces that deviation from excellence. You want your product to be excellent 10 out of 10 times. If I got a Snicker bar right now and went to 7-Eleven down the street and I went to another 7-Eleven, the Snicker bar should be identical, same thing. So when you're doing that, your SOPs, what it does is it minimizes that potential variation. That way, every time I go to McDonald's, I buy Snickers, I go to the Ritz-Carlton, I go to wherever, that consistency is like, I trust you. So when I put my money here for this product or this service, I get exactly what I think I'm buying.
So if creating SOPs is part of the best practice that an organization could do for their operations side of it, what's maybe the first, if they said, all right, that's good and dandy.
Yeah, sounds nice.
Yeah. Like, how do I do that?
How do I do that?
What's like maybe a simplified, version where it's like, all right, start here is a good place to launch from?
So a great place to start is when you're looking at it macro or micro. So macro is like, okay, generally, like kind of high level, what do I do when I get a client? What do I do when a lead comes in? If through social media, through word of mouth, So if a lead comes in through social media, through word of mouth, through a flyer, through a billboard, whatever it is, Where does it go? What happens next? Who calls it? What do they say? What do you do? So actually mapping out a step-by-step process of like, what do you actually do? Let's not even label it as operations. Let's get that out of your head. Let's just simply break down step by step. What do you do? And when you do that, it's really easy to segment those steps into what needs to be notified by somebody else, what needs to be tagged. And that's how you start to build that. And that's how you start to build like, what's your sales process? What's your accounting process? What's your accounts receivable process? What if someone misses a payment? What do you do there? So literally just mapping those things out and then flipping them. And that's how you start to build that manual that you can train somebody. So if a manager were to die, retire, quit, or something, that you have a tried and true Bible or a system that you can give them, that it's replicatable. And the best place to start is actually just there. So it's almost like math. You ever see like people who are like, oh, I'm so bad at math. I'm so bad at operations. Yeah, I'm so bad. So it's like, no, I just think it's a skill that you haven't learned and you haven't been taught the right way.
Just to kind of put a bow on this itself, what is the biggest challenge that existing companies have?
It's operations all day long.
What's the biggest challenge with regards to operations when they don't have any SOPs, right? So we've been around for 5 or 10 years. We're doing really damn well, but we're noticing some challenges. And then they look at, all right, maybe we need better systems in place, and they don't even know where to start. They're like, Antonio, I know we need SOPs, but I don't know where to start. And we have so many different aspects within our business.
Yeah.
I feel like I've just spent like the next year creating SOPs. So what's the best thing that company can do?
So the best, a couple parts. If that company is doing well, when I hear that, when like, hey, we're doing well, we just feel like maybe we're hitting a little bit of a glass ceiling. We're not gaining as much momentum. Every time that our business goes beyond this revenue point, things really get unstable, whatever, right?
Yeah.
If this is kind of beyond their business acumen, you got to work with somebody. You got to work with a coach. You got to work with a consultant where they can kind of bring you like these plug and play, tried and true systems and strategies. It's going to save you a lot of time. So if you're a business where that's that situation, I highly recommend bringing in an outside source that could fill those things. It's faster. You already have a good business in place. It just gets a little unstable at certain thresholds. No big deal. I got you. That's not all businesses though, is it? A lot of the businesses are like, we're barely scraping by. We're realizing that we're all over the place. It's chaotic all day, every day, and twice on Sunday. What the hell do we do? So what you want to do is you want to reverse engineer what is the single points of failure. Like, okay, if this goes out or this goes out or this goes out or this goes out, which one will absolutely damage my business and close the doors? If this goes out, maybe this little thing in the department or whatever it is, or in your CRM, it's like, it's just going to give me a headache and maybe heartburn. This one's going to give me a headache and a heartburn and hemorrhoids. And this one over here is going to cost me a lot of money, but this one here is going to absolutely destroy my business. That's the one we want to focus on. And then that one, we want to go backwards and start looking at operations. And then now, especially in this day and age with AI, you can run that and put it through ChatGPT. You could put it through Claude. You could put it through all kinds of different ones and be like, hey, refine this to make it a little bit better. I'm struggling. And leverage that technology just to give you ideas, because what we are really running against is someone's ignorance. Ignorance is not a bad thing. It's not a good thing. It's just what is. It just means that you just don't know. That's not something to beat anybody up on. Oh my God, like some of the best entrepreneurs in the whole wide world, they'll admit, I'm just ignorant in this place. I just don't know it. Like, no judgment. I don't know it. No big deal. I would leverage technology and AI in that respect, because it's going to give you something fast and something to think about that might click for you.
So then what would you say, actually, I'm going to scrap that. I think
scrap it.
Yeah, I mean,
whatever really, that question was.
No, I mean, I think what's really what I'm hearing there is, the aspect of you can try to do everything yourself.
Yeah.
But, you're running a business, and there's enough that goes into the day-to-day that then undertaking, all right, I got to create all these SOPs for different departments, different procedures. I can do it, but it's going to take me a very long time versus the aspect of paying for speed and time, right? And that's something that I've come to appreciate even in my own life. And I know you have too, where it's, I could do this, but how about I save tens or maybe hundreds of hours of my own time and just pay somebody else to do it or assist? And on, previous episode, you had mentioned about getting mentors, and it's very similar. Can I get somebody to help me, or can I bring in a resource to help me versus me trying to do everything myself? And at the end of the day, it's like, well, I saved maybe $50,000, but did you? Because you spent like hundreds of hours of your freaking time, and how much is that worth?
Oh, dude, what 100%. So that is definitely something like I'm a huge advocate for, which is like coaches, consultants, mentors, and they're not all the same. There's distinct differences when you're a coach, when you're a consultant, when you're a mentor, a colleague, just a friend. They mean very different things to me. But yeah, man, when it comes to that, I really do recommend, just to kind of give you maybe a different analogy from what I mentioned before.
Sure.
It's like your business is a sailboat. Your business is a sailboat. And sometimes people don't know where the sailboat is going. So we need to find out three things. Hey, I want to build more velocity in my business. I want to make it go faster. I want to generate more money. I want this thing to start moving, build momentum. Well, it's like you have a sailboat and it has all these big giant holes in the sails. It's like, it's not going to get any wind. So you got to patch those things up. And which ones are the best ones to patch first? The biggest ones, right? And sometimes even if you're trying to build that momentum with your sailboat, with the boat, and you have holes within the hole, that's going to weigh you down. So it's logical to go after the biggest gaping ones that's bringing in all the water, right? So, and then the rudder, we want to point the boat at true north. Like, where are we actually heading this thing? It's really similar to the business. Like, what are we doing on the offensive side to start getting all this momentum and velocity? What are things that they're mitigating, we're minimizing in terms of these risks or these operational inefficiencies that's hemorrhaging us money? And then actually point this this business in a direction of like, this is where we're truly looking to take it.
So you mentioned being a little more offensive, which
offensive or offensive?
Offense.
We could be offensive.
Yeah,
we're bringing in all these comedians and make this Puerto Rican jokes.
Being having a organization that goes on the offense to try to grow themselves. So if we're talking about what's the best practice for strategic growth, right? And that's again, like strategy, scary as hell for some people, but just even the word growth is scary for some people. Like, I don't want to get too big. But then you have people say, I want to grow. I just don't know what's the best way to do it. And I know that the common aspect is getting more patients. So let's double down on our marketing and bring more people through the door. But that is really that's necessary sometimes, but very ineffective in the long haul. So somebody says, that's fine. What can I do outside of that is not going to add to burnout and will actually help us grow? What would you say to that?
So it really depends on the business. There's a lot of nuances here. So what we were talking about before is that in some industries and some businesses, there's some red tape. You want to be ethical, but you also want to work within the parameters of the law. It's just not worth it. It's not worth to do something that if you get a license taken away or you get hit with a fine that completely cripples the business, you want to do it that way. Yeah. So in knowing what you can't do opens you up on what you can do. And when you're looking at what you can do, I really do love strategic partnerships. I really do love JVs and building out affiliateships, because the mindset behind that is collaboration over competition. Collaboration over competition. If you can collaborate, if your company collaborates with everybody and creates win-win situations, do you really think you're going to have some rink-a-dink little tiny company, or it can be pretty massive? Yeah. It's going to be massive, right? So I would look at that first, and I would look at, I would start to break down like who are some vendors to collaborate with, what are even like celebrities or like personalities that could really bring a lot of attention to the brand. So there's that offensive side of things. There's a lot of different ways you could skin that cat. And then you also want to look at fulfillment capabilities. Like if we had a company, we signed Disney, and like, okay, great. We need literally a million units every single month, and we're only used to doing 50,000 a month. There's no way that we can sign that agreement, because we would be out of integrity in the fulfillment side of things. So you really want to, as you're building out these strategic partnerships and these relationships, really keep your eye on what your fulfillment capabilities are now, where they will be, and go off of that too. Because last thing you ever want to do is burn a relationship too as well. You want to be really smart with that.
Yeah. I'm going to just add a little something to that for the medical perspective. Because like you said, JVs, affiliates, the medical provider saying, I can't do any of that.
Yeah.
So honestly, the easiest, or maybe not the easiest, but definitely one of the things that
Super easy.
Yeah, super easy. But no, one of the things that has worked really well for a lot of organizations is just bringing in different specialties that you normally will refer patients out to. Right. So if I'm a physical therapist and I refer patients to a chiropractor, well, can I just eventually have a chiropractor work within my organization?
Or buy one.
Yeah, it's like, so there are aspects of that. And, even just being able to look at that as a way to service your patients at a higher level.
Yeah. You know what? That's actually a strategy that you see a lot, like in the construction space, for example. Like it starts off with a guy with a bunch of tools, his truck. He starts taking on some jobs, and then he has to bring like an apprentice, another carpenter, and then like it grows, and he's a multi-million-dollar headless chicken, and he starts doing like renovations, and then like fix and flips, and then ground up construction, and then commercial. Right. And it's like, okay, now you start either acquiring or building our architectural design studios, land moving companies and roofing companies, and you can kind of do very similar things in healthcare.
Yeah.
And this is where I see a lot of the big boys in healthcare, where they have a clinic, and it's like, all right, I'm kind of shipping out patients to like a physical therapy spot.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like, all right, well, how much money is going out the door? It's like, oh, should we either build one or maybe find a close in terms of proximity 100%. To the clinic, maybe a physical therapy clinic that's maybe under duress, and maybe absorb them or buy them out. And then now you're acquiring their current base, and then you have a spot that you can charge, and you're keeping all that money in house. Yep. And you can start building out a ton of other things from there too. Same way you would like in the construction space.
Yeah.
So I'm seeing very little of that, only because of business acumen and capacity.
100%.
Yeah,
I agree with that. So what would you say then from a standpoint of, so we got some strategies for growth, and we're getting our operations together, but when we're thinking about those two aspects, I always think of the way that they're going to get put into play is who's at the top making those decisions.
Yeah,
right.
Who's the leader. Yep.
Yeah, it's like what's leadership's mentality about growth, and what's leadership's mentality about creating better systems in a company that's going to help everybody across the board. So if you can maybe speak to the importance, because I know some people are probably listening to this and saying, hey, that's all great, but the person who's running my clinic doesn't want to do any of that, or they're the toxic individuals that are causing our culture to be shit. So maybe you could speak to like, what's the best way to not address those toxic individuals, but just for that person who's maybe running a group, maybe they're a manager, department head, director, what's the best thing you would say? All right, you want to be a leader, start here first.
Ooh, so I think the best leaders are also the best followers. I think you want to start there. And when I look at companies, when I start working with a company, and even though the leaders are, not that they're making poor decisions, but they're like, so I'll just share this. I have a couple clients now where their executive team will run through a wall for the CEO. The CEO is far from perfect. It is like they're making mistakes. There's a lot of holes in it, but there's a lot of holes in their business. There's a lot of kind of aspects that need it. But one thing that they're really, really good at, their team, is to submitting to the mission. And I think that's actually what makes them really good leaders. No one's automatically a really good leader. When you think about the best qualities of a leader, they're humble. They're they have really good communication. They do what they have to do. They put their ego to the side. Where you learn that, those leaders learn that, is through following. And I think the best place where you could start to be a better leader is self-leading yourself. I like a SIP method for any of my leaders that I work with, any of my CEOs that I work with. SIP. SIP stands for something spiritual, something intellectual, and something physical. That we want you to get wins as early as humanly possible throughout the day. That trickle effect happens absolutely everywhere. If you're not leading yourself on the little daily success habits that's going to make a difference for you, how do you really expect your organization to do anything? How do you really expect your people to do anything? How do you expect the people that are underneath you to grow into leaders if you're not doing it yourself? I actually got called out recently about being authentic and being authentic about what you're preaching. And if you are telling people to do certain things, you have to demonstrate that at a high level too. And that's what creates buy-in in an organization. That's like, man, like my boss wants me to do this. They want me to make these calls and do that. And then you look over and you're like, this guy's actually doing everything that he wants me to do too. He's in the trenches with me. And the only way you demonstrate that is if you are actually doing that work where it's visible for other people too as well. So you kind of have to take ownership of that. And I think you have to make that a little bit public facing with your organization. If that answers the question, it always starts with yourself.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, hey, look, I wrote a book called I'm the Problem simply because of that, right? My own leadership journey was realizing how terrible I was when I first started out. And you made a good point about most people are not naturally good leaders. And I think there's some stats from Gallup, which is a big organization that does a lot of studies. Like 10% of people are naturally leaders. Meaning, so what happens to the other 90%?
Yeah.
And if we think about organizations where, maybe you don't have a best practice for promoting people to management or to supervisor role, and you promote that person who makes you the most money and they don't have the skills, what is the effect, right? And then we think about,
it could be millions of dollars.
Well, yeah, I was thinking about the fact that management is usually the number one reason employees quit. It's like the highest, I think it's like 65 or 70% of employees quit strictly because of management. Yeah. So we think about that effect, and then like you said, the costs associated with that. But when I look at the leader's effect on culture and the best practice that a company can do to have a glowing culture outside of just, hey, our leader's amazing, still takes actions from leadership to promote and to grow that culture. So what would you say are some of those top things that are fairly easy to institute too on a day-to-day basis that can create kind of that best practice culture for organizations?
Especially if you're belly to belly with somebody. So if you're running a small office or if you're running a small business where as the leader or as a CEO, basically your whole team is right in front of you, really appreciate the power of edification, making people feel good, making people, when they walk into your organization, that they feel appreciated, that they feel recognized, that they feel empowered, that they feel like that they're just 10 feet tall, that they can conquer the world. If your organization just has that much more confidence because you are speaking confidence, because you are demonstrating confidence, where do you think your business is actually going to be versus the opposite side of that spectrum? If they're chaotic, they don't know what to do, they have a poor self-image, they have poor self-esteem, they're lacking, they're uncoachable. Where do you think your business is really going to go, right? So if you have a small team and you're doing that, I think that's effective to do that, just to communicate that and really just have a positive attitude. That's huge. That goes so beyond anything that we can really talk about. If you have a large organization, making sure that your managers and your C-suite are absorbing you doing that still, but that the trickle effect is there. And things that you can do are surveying your employees, whether it's monthly or depending on the business. Monthly is actually pretty good too, where you're doing like 1 to 5 on a scale of 1 to 5. How do you feel like the new CRM is, or do you feel like training is there? Do you feel like you're being heard here? Do you feel like you can ask
like check-ins?
Yeah. Doing monthly check-ins. Depending on the role too, if there's like weekly check-ins, there's monthly check-ins, where you can get hard data that if I brought in a new manager, a new like sales manager, for example, and I'm doing monthly check-ins with my sales team and things are trending down or trending up, sales numbers are trending down or trending up, whatever it is, that these are hard numbers that I can go back to the manager with. So surveying your employees is a really good thing too, because people tend to survey their customers, but not their employees. You survey your employees and you're asking questions like, especially around leadership, is there more responsibility that you're looking to take? Are you good the way you are? Are you overwhelmed, right? 1 to 5. It was 3 being like neutral or whatever. So you can start to identify people that are in your organization. They're like, I want more responsibility. I feel like I could take on more. Like, oh, let's schedule a one-on-one. Let's talk about that.
Man, that was good. So I can definitely appreciate that. I mean, that's the check-ins, honestly, is such an overrated aspect. And I was asked a while ago by my mentor, what was the one thing that enabled me to grow the team that I was managing? And I was like, that was my answer, was check-ins, like daily. Like I was actually just doing it daily. But I was close enough to do it with them. I was like daily check-ins to see how they're doing and where I could provide more value to them. So that can't be understated how impactful that is. And I think the last thing I'll ask you is gratitude bullshit when it comes to culture? Or is that just like, are we just doing it because of, Gen Z and they want to feel good? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
I think gratitude is kind of one of those words that is extremely powerful, but it's also a mask. And I think it was Lisa Bilyeu, Tom Bilyeu's wife, Lisa, right? She did an episode with Ed Milet sometime back, and she said something that absolutely floored me. That sometimes people live in the world of gratitude to mask the things that they're tolerating that they shouldn't. Like I'm homeless, but at least I have this, and it's like, I get that you're grateful, So like if you're if you're at a job and you're constantly reprimanded, you're being put down, your self-image is being beaten up, you should be grateful you have a job. I come from an immigrant family, and there's a lot of situations where you have immigrants that are working in jobs and they're completely mistreated, but they're just grateful that they have a job. And so I kind of see it both ways. I think gratitude is awesome when you have a deep appreciation and love for something. And I think that's actually very, very powerful. I really am a strong believer in gratitude. It makes you present. It makes you appreciate in the moment. I think it's a great projector. I think it's powerful. Do not use that as a crutch to tolerate things that you shouldn't be tolerating. Do not use that as this thing that is like this, the rug of gratitude in which you slide bullshit under. Yeah. You shouldn't do that. And I see kind of that happening in a lot of spaces where it's like, you should be grateful for this. It's actually a guilt mechanism. You should be grateful that I do this for you, right? It's like, all right, okay. I think it's very effective. I think it's really, really good. But let's be practical with it. If you're in an organization where they're constantly preaching gratitude, then you should be grateful for this. It could be a smoke and mirror. You want to make sure that you're treated well. You want to make sure that you're performing. That's a two-way street. That you are doing the things you need to do so the business can justify you. But then it's also kind of flipped in the other way too. So that's my take on gratitude. I love it. I need to be more grateful, to be honest with you. But man, do I hate seeing an organization that preach that only to mask bullshit in the organization. So it can be a dark thing, actually.
I hear you, man. Man, what a different spin on gratitude. I bet that's not what you guys were expecting, but this is why best practices, baby. So we're gonna wrap that up. Great episode. Appreciate all the info and the great insights from you, Antonio. It was phenomenal. Guys, thanks for joining us. This is All Things LOCS. We will catch you next time.